while we were talking about like you being very involved with like creating content for YouTube and all that kind of stuff, you did something, especially during the pandemic, which I found really inspiring, but it also catch like different sort of echoes. So you went out there with content, kind of demystifying all the like different components and circuits and what's behind, like what's inside a tube schema, what's inside this and that pedal. And what I found really interesting, there were a lot of people that said, finally somebody who, kind of demystifies this whole secret about what's inside a clone or what's inside a tube schema. Right. And then there were other people, probably people who were just getting into the game and they wanted to sell their pedals with the extra like special mojo whatnot of magic diodes and all these things. And they were like
$10 op amps. Yeah,
exactly. And they were like almost kind of pissed. They were almost like, why is he, revealing all the secrets and whatnot? What made you, take this step and say like, but not only demystify, but do like the hands-on kind of approach where it's like, hey, this is this op amp. Now we're going to put in these diodes, and that's the difference and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Even early on, so I wrote like that book about DIY mods years ago, and that book actually, for those who don't know, so years ago I wrote a book about like how to modify guitar pedals. You can still get on Amazon. You can find free PDFs online. But it was so that book started out where I was just writing my notes down. And since I was participating in all these forums, I would get a lot of messages from people like asking like, well, what mods are you doing to this pedal? And it was just handy for me to have a PDF just to send to them. And, but something happened where I was spending a lot of time answering messages and I was basically complaining to a friend. And he said, why don't you just charge a couple bucks for it and make it worth your time then? I was like, yeah, I guess okay. That's actually not a bad idea. So I started selling like these PDFs on Amazon, and then print on demand books became a thing. So I started selling these print on demand books. And then Amazon picked that up and that became part of Amazon. So then the book got on Amazon.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I always really liked the idea of, again, this is selfish, but I always liked the idea of taking these kind of complex subjects and explaining them in a way that the typical person who doesn't want to be an engineer, doesn't want to like sit down with a calculator and figure out gains of op amps and stuff. They just want to know what resistor gives this more gain. I don't care why, I don't care about impede, I don't care about any of that stuff. Just tell me what to change to get what I want. Right. And I say it's selfish because I was that person in 2001 where I'm like, I don't care about your fancy math, Mr. Engineer fella. All I care about is how I make my Boss DS1 not suck. That's all I want.
Right.
And so I guess there's like this soft spot in me, like, I just want to like help other guitar players with that knowledge. And so, that's probably why the videos came about, is because I get a lot of questions, and a lot of people are like, well, what's the difference between a 1985 TS9 and 2003 TS9? Because my buddy bought like this op amp on eBay. It was like $89 for this op amp. And shit. It sounds so different. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You want it to sound different. I'm like, it might sound 0.01% different, just a little bit, but that's tolerances.
It's tolerances, generally. Yeah.
Exactly. Not always. I mean, some op amps do sound a little bit different, but at the end of the day, like, there's just more important things to mess with. Like, if you want more bass than spending a bunch of money on magic diodes or magic op amps or whatever. And, coming from the guy that has $1,000 Tumnuses on reverb, right? By the way, I would never pay that much money for that, and don't do that. Just go
No,
find some 1
but
in
it's
34s.
to me, personally, it was really inspiring because at that time I was just fiddling around with my own designs, and so I had a breadboard and I was doing things on a breadboard, but sometimes I bought one of these like DIY PCBs and then like half wired them to the breadboard so I could like try things out and all that kind of stuff. And to me, the stuff that you did was it. I guess it wasn't like shocking to me, but it was kind of like a confirmation of what I heard. And when I heard that I changed diodes, I was like, there's not much of a difference, almost no difference at all. And then it was like, but maybe you can measure a difference. And then I measured the difference, and I was like, okay, there is a difference, but it's not that much. And I just bought a shit ton of like Russian NOS diodes, and I thought these were the holy grail. And then I tested them, and in the end, if you put in a couple of, I don't know, bad 46s or something, you get a similar but different result, but it's not going to be dramatic. It's not going to be. So yeah, for me, it was kind of nice to see that everything that I heard and measured, and then you come around, somebody who's accomplished and who's like respected in that world, and was like, so here's how this works for folks. And I was like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one listening to this.
I mean, and even as you do a lot of breadboarding, Frank. It can be really, you can convince yourself of things, as you're switching stuff around, you're like, man, I hear a dramatic difference.
Yeah.
But then when you start, like, if I'll do this a lot, like I'll record me playing a part with one change and then record the same part and then level them out so that it's like the same volume and then listen to it from good speakers. And I'm like, it's that 0.001% thing, just not big enough to worry about,
Yeah.
But I want to believe it. I want to believe that I make a change and add some fancy diodes, and I'm like, oh, it just compresses so organically.
So delicious.
Yeah.